everyone, and welcome back to another live stream here from the Next Level Studio. Cliff Ravenscraft here. Today, it is all about unleashing your dreams, unleashing your full potential, whatever it is that you want to create in this world. I am here to offer free coaching, support, encouragement in any way possible. That is what I love to do, my friends. And so I want to let you know real quickly, there are a couple of ways that you can engage with me. And in fact, I have it up here on the screen. I just want to let you know that you can post your questions in the comments section if you are watching via my webinar on demand platform through StreamYard. And I do see that some of you are in there. And of course, if you are watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can post comments or questions in the comments section, and I will see those and answer your questions. Of course, I also want to encourage everyone to consider going to mindsetanswerman.com/join. Join me right here on stage. You can actually participate live. So I would love to engage with you. Now, I already have the first person in studio, and I'm going to ask her if I don't see video, so I'm going to just bring her on up here, and let's see if this works out. Is it Manal?
Yes, it is.
Manal, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I have never been better. It gets better every single minute of the day. How can I be of support or encouragement to you?
Well, fantastic. Well, I just received your message back from Instagram where I was inviting you to read or to review or to see what type of inspiration or collaboration we could have with my book. And you said join here. So I'm like, I love how life works. And I listened to you on your podcast with Graham, and I just love the spiritual undertone and overtone of everything you said. So I just really am here to hear you and to feel your inspiration. What directly I'm working on right now that I know that you have experience with is self-publishing a book and really bringing out my message to a larger audience. It's called Transcending Anxiety from Fear to Freedom. And the essence of it is a recognition that anything that we feel, particularly what we label anxiety, which is actually your unacknowledged fears, is a pathway to your freedom. And if we can use everything as a catalyst for growth, we can expand infinitely. And so anything that you could offer with terms to the process or anything that you could say to somebody that's green.
Well, thank you. So first of all, congratulations on the process of writing a book. Unfortunately, I don't have any experience in self-publishing a book or promoting a book. I have worked with thousands of clients who have done those things. Is there any specific advice that you're looking for? You say that, you're looking for something because you're kind of green and new at this or whatever, but is there a specific thing that you want to accomplish where I could give you some support or encouragement?
Um, Honestly, I'm here for you, not necessarily having any questions. It was just great timing that I had sent you and you said, Manal, come join. This is on. And I'm like, oh, it's in 20 minutes. Sure, I'll join on. I just really loved what I saw of you. And
Excellent.
so the answer is, I hate to say really nothing specifically, but um, I think we're both doing the same thing in terms of how do you see the sunlight, even the way that you responded when I said, how are you? You said life is always getting better. So I think we have the same approach and view and seeing the beauty and the empowerment in life and just saying, how do we take that and how do we take the world with us to see us? So, if you can hear anything in what I'm saying that says, oh, Manal, I can hear this, I'm open to it, but I'm really here to play. Really here to
Well,
play.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
So the reason why I said join, because I know that you had reached out to me and mentioned that you saw me on the Graham Cochran interview that I did with him. You mentioned that you had a book and you offered to send me a preview copy. I currently read, I've got about 40 to 50 books I'm in the middle of reading right now. And I typically am inside of deep, mystical, ancient tradition material. So
Yes.
that I don't necessarily read a lot of books outside of that these days.
Yes.
So that's why I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could just invite you to come up. And if you want to just promote it, I'm happy to give you that opportunity. Tell people about the book. And first and foremost, can you put the URL in the chat that you're in? And I can grab that URL and put it on the screen. How's that sound?
I got confused by that one particular. What URL are you referring to?
Anywhere where people can find you and on the internet, and so that they can go and buy your book when it's available.
Beautiful. That's where I am. That's who I am. Um, and I'm happy to turn on my camera as well. I wasn't prepared to, but I'm happy to
Oh,
if you, yeah.
you don't have to turn on your
Okay,
camera. It's
perfect.
perfectly fine. So
Um,
it's up on the screen. So if
Perfect.
anybody is that Mateen?
Matain. My name's Manal El Ramley, and my inspiration is allowing and enabling us all to attain the life that we desire. And Matain came from Manal is actually Arabic for attainment. So I put an M for Manal in front of attain for attainment, and it's Matain. And I believe that life is meant to be full of beauty and joy and happiness and freedom and worthiness, and that we are sometimes misinterpreting the beauty of life because of struggles and suffering that we have been conditioned to believe. And so, my whole inspiration, yes, this is me. This is me. Thank you, Cliff.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and my new book is all about recognizing. I never thought my first book, I always knew I'd be an author, Cliff. I always knew from my youngest days, taking a shower and visualizing what would I be saying to the world, and it was always about life. I never would imagine my first book would be about anxiety, because it's not something I ever identified with. It's not something I even used. I used that my life is crazy as a term, which is actually underlying term for being out of control, which is an underlying term for anxiety. But all of my followers talk about anxiety. Everybody says, I'm anxious, my mind is looping, I can't control my mind. Everybody talks about physical resistance and pain and tension, and those are all symptoms of anxiety. So I felt like anxiety is a universal language that all of us can hear and recognize and understand. So that's where the title came from, Transcending Anxiety from Fear to Freedom. And the essence of the book is understanding the manifestations of anxiety in all four of your bodies. I believe we have four bodies: our physical body, where we have physical manifestations; our emotional body, where we sing from joy and happiness and pleasure and anger and frustration; our mental body, where we're mentally processing, but it's also speaking for our four bodies. So we think that our mind is going crazy, but it's expressing the physical body and the emotional body. And then our egoic body, which is largely unseen, except for those books that you're reading, Cliff, that talk about your connection to greater, our connection to the universe, to God, to a higher being, to the inner power, whatever higher meaning, whatever it is. And it's really where we carry our identities and our beliefs. And when we recognize that anxiety is unacknowledged fears of the future, and then you say, I'm going to take off my veil and I will now see my fears, you no longer have anxiety. It is
That is
now called fears.
that is awesome. And when is your book going to be available?
It's going to be available in the next 3 weeks. I have beta readers. I reached out to you as a beta reader. I have beta readers out to sort of put out the spider to the loved ones. It's a very vulnerable process to share your words with people. So I'm just really sending it to people that I know, my followers, some of my dear followers, some of my friends, and just getting feedback to help me bring it out to the world in the best package possible.
So if somebody is listening to this and they have a bit of anxiety that they would love to get to the bottom of, if they go to maintain.me up on the screen here and
Yes.
click and get that download the free happiness guide, that will get them on your mailing list. And I'm sure that when your book is available, they would be email notified. Is that accurate?
Cliff, yes, exactly, yes.
That's what I would recommend, my friends. So thank you so much, Manal. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get the ball rolling here with some free coaching and ask me anything, unless there's anything else I can do to support or encourage you.
I would not in my wildest dreams imagine that I would be engaging with you at this time, at this level. So thank you
Thank
wholeheartedly. I'm going to continue to listen today because, like I said, I listened to you once and I love you because I see that you get it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Feel free to hang out here in the studio. And if you want to jump in at any time and ask any question throughout this live stream, just type into the chat and I will see that. All right. So thank you so much. Dimple, I see you are on Clubhouse. If you want to come up and chat and ask anything, feel free to raise your hand. No pressure to do so, of course. And also, let's see here. I don't have any other chats. So let me go in and, oh, here we go. Here comes Dimple. So I will hide this. I'm going to put a little banner and I'm going to create a banner that says Dimple via Clubhouse. And I will hit enter and hit show. Dimple via Clubhouse. Dimple, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Cliff? It's been a while.
I have never been better. It gets better every minute of the day. It has been a little while, and I'm thrilled that you are here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, I guess what's on my mind lately is, there's a concept that I came up with a couple of months ago that I wanted to launch. And then I guess I kind of talked myself out of it for certain reasons. And now I'm in the process of trying to talk myself into it. Um, but I still like have this like level of discomfort of like, because I feel like it's something that other people are just going to copy and steal, and there's like a lot of originality that was put into it. um so I don't know, that's just kind of where I am at right now.
All right. So you have an idea, and you are concerned that somebody is going to steal this idea and run with it.
Right, are they going to, or maybe it's going to actually create a lot of buzz and they're going to be jealous.
Okay. So, how can I be of support to you? What specifically would you like to move forward on?
I think the fact of like, how do you overcome like those voices in your head that are holding you back from doing something big?
Okay. So, can you give me an example of just one thing that the voice or voices in your head are saying?
It's saying, "Oh, like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to start something just like it."
Okay, so somebody else is going to hear about your idea and they are going to go and take that idea and run with it. That's what you're afraid of.
That, and also the fact of how like, especially just, I guess on social audio, sometimes people are just very, very, jealous, and it's kind of like, and that's the platform where I would want to promote it. So that kind of holds me back because it's like, oh, well, do I really want to? Do I not want to?
So there are okay, you've brought up the two voice, so the two thoughts that are coming from the voice in your head. One, somebody's going to hear about it and they're going to want to go do it. And number two, you're worried about what other people will say because they're kind of jealous and like, who are you to think that you could do that? So those are the two things. And you want to know, how do I get beyond those voices in my head when I want to go and do something big like this? Well, first, have you ever read the book The Four Agreements?
I think it was a really long time ago. Isn't it by who's the author of that book?
Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah, a long time ago I did.
So, do you recall reading the chapter that says, "Don't take anything personal"?
Yes.
And so, what is it about other people who are jealous? What power do you feel that they have over you to keep you from being your authentic expression of who you are and what you want to create in this world? What is it about their voice and their opinion that you feel has so much power to keep you from moving forward?
I mean, I don't know, it's hard to pinpoint, but just I guess it's like a fear of them kind of like making it less, or like saying bad things about, like making things up basically.
Okay. And so let's just say they do. Give me an example of something that they might make up because they're jealous and they're going to say things about you. Give me an example of what they might say.
They might say, oh, like, I don't know, like maybe they'll say, oh, like that's a stupid idea, or who does she think she is?
Okay. So, and if they say that, does it make it a stupid idea?
No, not at all,
All
because
right.
it's a brilliant idea.
And because from their perception, they don't think that you're worthy of having such an idea. Does that change your worthiness of having such an idea?
Not at all.
Okay. So, do you recognize it sounds to me like you're pretty convinced that if you go out and start talking about this, this is potentially going to happen. And let's just say it does. What about it? What does that mean? Does that mean that you won't succeed? Does it mean that you're doomed to fail if people say things about you and say that's a dumb idea and this is never going to work and you don't have what it takes? And does that doom you to failure if people out there say those kind of things?
Actually, no.
Can you see, let's just assume that it happens. Can you explain to me in any way how other people saying that you're dumb and out there talking about you in all sorts of other public places about how crazy your ideas, and they're out there talking stuff about who does she think she is, doing all this bluff and talking all this stuff? Can you tell me any ways that that actually might benefit you and what you're creating?
It could possibly create more, like shed more of a light on it.
Yeah. So the reason why I ask that is because I do a lot of stuff that, quite frankly, when I first have the idea, I'm like, well, who am I to do this? Why would anybody listen to me? I'll never forget. I went to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins in June of 2015 with my wife, and I came away from that event and I'm like, I want to do over the next 30 years of my life what Tony Robbins has been doing for the last 30 years of his life. I want to show up in a powerful way and change the way people think about themselves and the world they live in. I want them to break free from the baggage of bad beliefs. I want to help them break free from the cycle of negative thinking, of negative self talk. I want to help people unleash the power inside of them. I want to do this. This is what I want to dedicate and devote my life to. And then all of a sudden, I came away with that and I was so on fire. But then it took me about 2.5 years before I finally went and did it. And that's because, Dimple, for me, I had to do a lot of work on my own beliefs. It's like, why would anyone listen to me when they could just listen to Tony? I mean, I most of the stuff that I at that point, Dimple, I did not know a lot about emotional intelligence. I didn't know a lot about controlling your emotional state. I didn't know a lot about all of this personal and professional development. Excuse me, I'm going to take a real quick drink. However, I was listening to Tony Robbins. Not only did I go to his event, but I bought two of his programs. One was a 10-day program called Creating Lasting Change, and another one was a 30-day program called Personal Power 2. And I listened to both of those more than 30 times. So that's a lot of content. I'm listening to a lot of Tony. And so now I've pretty much memorized all the stuff that Tony's teaching. And I'm thinking, it's like, wait, most everything I know that's transformed my own experience of life, transformed my own way of thinking, transformed my own mindset, I learned from Tony. Why would anybody hire me? Why would anybody come to a workshop that I'm hosting? Why would anyone do any of these things when they could just get the program from Tony? He's got 30 plus years, a track record. He's far more qualified. He's far more educated. There's all this stuff. And so I had to overcome all of that, except for the fact that it took me time to figure out, it's like, wait a second. I have been doing this. People have been drawn to me. You've heard this quote before, probably, but Michael Hyatt, who was one of my mentors, Michael Hyatt's the first person who convinced me that Tony Robbins is somebody I should have on my radar. And Michael Hyatt said this.
Well, I've told you before, this is why I listen to your podcast. It's not because I need more technical information on podcasting. I just listen to you because I like the way that you think about life, how you approach the problems you're trying to solve, and just your voice. So you could be talking about anything, and I'd be interested.
So that message from Michael Hyatt started coming up over and over again. So in my podcast content, I began talking about, I would say, hey, I recently read this, and Tony Robbins says this, and Tony Robbins says that, and blah, 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 blah. And if you want, you can go learn more from Tony Robbins. And sometimes I would play clips from Tony Robbins, like in my workshops. So I did a building an online business workshop, and I played a 10-minute Tony Robbins clip. And this gentleman that paid to come to my workshop, by the way, he paid $2,000 to come to my workshop, traveled to Northern Kentucky. And I'm actually, let's see here, haters, negative feedback. I'm just looking for some additional, there we go, fitness answer man. I want to share something with you in just a moment. So I played this video clip, and at the end of the workshop, he says, Cliff, I just want to give you some feedback. Instead of playing that clip from Tony Robbins on raising your standard the next time, why don't you just do your own version of that for 10 or 15 minutes? Just riff on it. I know you know that material, and I know that you want to give credit to Tony Robbins, and that's perfectly fine. But my recommendation for you, when you do this workshop again, which, by the way, he says you need to double the price of what you charge for the workshop, by the way. He says, but still, I want to tell you that if you were to do that lesson in your own voice, the way that you would say it in your own words, it will come over much better. He goes, quite frankly, I respect Tony Robbins and what he built, but I don't resonate with Tony Robbins, but I resonate with you. I like the way you teach. I like the way you communicate. And I totally buy into the message that Tony Robbins communicated in that video. But I can tell you right now, it would have hit a whole lot different for me if it came from you. That's why I traveled hundreds of miles and paid $2,000 to attend your workshop. So by all means, Cliff, own your value and just get up and teach from your perspective. Now, that's the positive feedback. But before I was able to ever get there and have somebody say those words to me, I had to overcome these words. And I'm going to add this to my live stream. For those who are watching on video, you will see this and can read along if you desire. So let me see if I can actually go. Can I do full screen on this so that it will even be easier for you to read? There you go. So I did a podcast episode where back in the day, I was going through a fitness and health journey, and I was really excited. I was still known as the podcast answer man, and I was thinking, one day I'm going to be known as a guy who helps people with their mindset. And at the time, I was really into fitness stuff. And so on the fitness stuff, I just joked around, and I had no desire for this, but I said, what if one day, instead of the podcast answer man, they knew me as the mindset answer man? The fitness answer man. Now, today I'm known as the mindset answer man, which is what I chose, not fitness answer man, because I didn't desire to be a fitness coach. I wanted to be a mindset coach. But still, I said maybe I could see a day where one day they see me as the fitness answer man instead of this old brand of podcast answer man. Here's the comment that this person left on that podcast episode. It says, let's see, you're pursuing a balanced life podcast. You said, quote unquote, I want to be known for the health and fitness answer man. I've been following your day one journaling. One thing is clear, you're not a health and fitness expert. You're not even close. Yes, you do indeed offer a few business hacks and business strategies. You do have quote unquote game in the new media space. You are far from having game in the health and fitness space. Glad you're quoting some essentialism book hacks. Do the math. Let's just say you release 50 episodes of Pursuing a Balanced Life podcast in 2015. That's 40 to 50 hours. The book Essentialism promotes just-in-time learning, means investing 45 to 50 hours listening to you attempting to figure out your health and fitness is not a productive or a valuable use of time. You pawning yourself off in as legit in health and fitness when you are not. Yet I am calling you out for one main reason. Currently, Pursuing a Balanced podcast does not have any real success track record in health or fitness. Why? Because you don't have any quantifiable or tangible results or track record from 2014. The book Essentialism creatively teaches us how to cut the fat, i.e., the unnecessary. You are an A-lister in podcasting. This does not automatically give you A-list credibility in health and fitness space. So, Dimple, people are going to say negative things about you. It's just a thing. Matter of fact, let me read you another thing here. This is a one-star routine, or what do you call it, review on iTunes. It's a one-star review, and it says, "Everyone hates your show." That's the title of the review. "Everyone hates your show, including me. Can I pick 0 stars? Can an exception be made just this once? I beg you, we must get the word out. The people must be told. We have to protect our children from such an embarrassingly low level of quality. The self-congratulatory tone is a threat to judgment and common sense everywhere. Does mediocrity know no bounds?" So when you get out and you have something to say, you're going to get people who are going to give you that negative feedback. Do you have any thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, I think it's just part of the growth process, right? And you have to go through that. And I think the more you elevate yourself, the more criticism you get from people, because the more you're going to be seen, the more people are noticing your content. And there's always going to be people that are going to, be the haters. But when you flip it around, what do they have going for them besides being like a digital keyboard warrior, right? They probably don't have, a, they haven't launched 10 podcasts, they haven't done this, they haven't done that. So I think we have to just learn to like take it for what it is, and kind of compartmentalize it in a way where it doesn't really impact us, right? It doesn't stop us from what we are meant to do.
So my question is, are you going to let the fact that some people may say that you're dumb, your idea is dumb, and who are you to pull this off, and all this other, are you going to allow that to keep you from moving forward?
No, absolutely not.
All right. Now we still need to address this other concern that you have. What if people hear your idea and they go and try to run with it themselves? So
Yeah.
so what if they do?
Well, here's my thought on that. I think like people can always try, but I honestly don't think anyone's going to be able to do it as well as me, because, you can like try to be a copycat, but there's no way you can actually replicate when someone is the original creator of something and they're doing it, with their originality. I just don't think so, because probably I would always still be one step ahead.
That's one way to perceive it. And so that absolutely. So why not focus on that when that voice says, "Well, hey, Dimple, if you talk about this, people are going to hear what you're saying, and they're going to think it's a great idea, and they're going to go run with it." But what if you were to focus on that line of thinking? It's like, well, okay, well, maybe they will be inspired to go create a competing service, but they will never be able to have the same vision for it that I have in my mind. They will never do it in the way that I will do it. They will not have the level of care, the concern, the quality, the user interface, whatever this thing is that you're thinking of doing. Here's another story that I will tell you is back when I started Podcast Answer Man and did this full time as a career, I had a number of people who discovered how to podcast. They learned how to podcast from me. And then they said, "You know what? This is awesome. I see how Cliff is making a great living doing this. And I had people who learned how to podcast from me. And you know what they did is they went and created their own weekly podcast devoted to podcasting. And they began doing and mimicking everything that I was doing. Matter of fact, one person actually took all of my Podcast Answer Man equipment packages. He downloaded my images and he took my logo off of the images, put his logo on, and sold the exact 5 different packages, 5 different levels of podcast equipment packages. And then he called my supplier, because I was doing drop shipping for equipment, so I was an official reseller, not just an affiliate sales, but I was an official reseller. And he contacted my supplier to see if he could also resell for them. And my supplier said, dude, get out of here. I've got a deal with Cliff and you go find it somewhere else. But he did. He went and found a different supplier who would allow him to be a reseller, and he went and competed with me. He didn't even come up with his own packages. He didn't even come up with his own artwork. He just took his logo and threw it over top of mine with a copy paste. So, and also I will say this, there was another guy. I show up and do a lot of public live streaming. This live streaming stuff is not new for me. Back in the day I was doing Ustream, and I would host live show Thursdays, and Podcast Answer Man was one of my shows that I did live. And there was this one guy who learned how to podcast from me, and he would go into my live show. He would be watching live. He would be there in the chat. And every time I gave an opinion, he would, in the chat with, let's just say 30 or 40 people at the time that were tuning in live as well. Now, I'm monologuing and I'm recording a show and I do Q&A at the end, but while I'm monologuing, giving my thoughts, giving my opinions, he was in the chat, real time, live feedback, giving his dissenting opinions. I think you're wrong, Cliff, and here's why. And here's what I would recommend instead. If anybody's interested, I have a blog article over here, and you can sign up for my mailing list. And by the way, I also have a podcast where I give much better advice than Cliff Ravenscraft. It was hilarious.
Wow, that is crazy.
And
That is crazy.
and let me ask you this, Dimple. I want to ask you this question. If you heard about me, let's just say back in my Podcast Answer Man days, and you don't have a podcast, but you are genuinely interested in launching a podcast, and you had discovered me, and as a result of my podcast, you heard that I do these shows live where you can come and interact with me and watch me record while I'm recording my show. If you came into the chat and you saw that guy doing that, I want to ask you honestly, what would your opinion of that person be?
It would be that they're very insecure and they don't have confidence. So they're literally just trying to make someone else look bad to make themselves look better. But in reality, for the people who can truly see it, they're going to recognize that. The problem is, though, everybody doesn't see it that way, and there's people that like get kind of swayed into those things, and it gives them like, oh, well, what if that guy is right, or what if? And then there's people that are smarter and savvier, and the people that are smarter and savvier are like, oh, that guy is just a loser. So it makes him look like the loser in front of those people. But then there's other people that don't see it that way, and then they fall into his trap. So I think there's two sides to the story, right? But if
Yeah.
I saw something like that, I'd be like, you're just being a troll. And you know what? Like, this isn't your live, this isn't your conversation. I would kind of be like, how dare you? It's kind of like when somebody came in a clubhouse room yesterday and they put in the comment, oh, who's really pretending to work for YouTube? And I was one of the moderators. So I said, you know what? So and so. And I called his name out and I said, so and so. I said, you know what? Yeah, like Dr. Fashion, yeah, she actually does, work for YouTube and she does this and that. And I'm like, if you have a problem with it and you don't like this conversation, you're welcome to leave, because I said in this room we're nice to the moderators, we respect people because we are giving our time hosting this talk, da da da. And if you don't like it, you're welcome to leave.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
nice. He doesn't leave, I would have kicked him out. Like if he
well,
kept
that's
going.
exactly it. You can easily kick them out. And by the way, this person that kept doing this, I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'd really appreciate it if you would just go and find your own environment, create your own live stream, and do your own thing. This is my space." And but the ironic thing is, this person was a friend of mine. I taught him how to podcast, and
No,
he lives not too far away. And also, by the way, on from a
was that a fake friend though, Cliff? Come on. I mean, we got
uh,
to unpack that.
uh,
That's not a friend. That's a fake friend.
so let's not go into that. So let me share with you the impertinent information that will be valuable to you here. So the thing is, though, is this person on a technical level was more proficient, and he understood the back end of podcast RSS feed functionality far beyond my own understanding. So this guy was actually far more qualified to speak on the topic for which I was speaking on. Now, here's the thing. I had an opinion. I never once ever said everything Cliff says is the one and only right way to do things. But people often ask, Cliff, how should I set up my podcast feed? Well, there are a number of ways that you can do it, but here's how I have mine set up, and it's always worked for me. By the way, there are many people who suggest that it's not the best way to do it, and there are other better ways to do it. I certainly know that those ways exist, but let me explain to you why I chose mine. Now, technically speaking, this guy was giving great advice, and those who followed it would have done well to follow it if they actually went over and learned how to do it from him. But I didn't have that experience of doing it that way, so I taught my way. And by the way, my way worked for more than 40,000 people that I taught how to podcast. And since then, by the way, many, many, many years later, I went and looked for his tutorial on how to switch it from the way that I did my RSS feed to a different way. So I actually went to his tutorial later on to learn how to do what's called a 301 permanent redirect of my RSS feed to do it the way that he had suggested and others had suggested all along. And then I went and taught other people how to do that as well for anybody who wanted to follow my suit, but they could still do things the other way. There were just limitations. There were real limitations for doing things the way that I did. For example, you could only have the most recent 100 podcast episodes show up in your feed. If you had, which I now just published episode 707 of the Cliff Ravenscraft show. So the most recent 100 episodes would have been showing. But now if you go to my podcast, you can see all 100 or 707 episodes. So this person was giving valuable advice. It was, and for some people in the chat, if they actually listened to him and went and followed his way instead of my way, and they learned how to podcast from him instead of mine, it was good advice. Now, the thing is there were people who stayed in my chat and said, that guy's an idiot. Why is he here doing this to Cliff? That's a boneheaded thing to do. I would never work with somebody who would have the gall to do that. And they learned from me. And you know what? Their podcast worked as well. Everybody was happy. Everybody got something good. So, the interesting thing is that I did lose business. There were people who actually started following him as a result of him showing up. Now, he did that for a little while, and eventually I actually took him out to lunch, and I said, listen, I'm going to ask you to stop showing up. And he was offended. He was hurt. He didn't understand. And again, I didn't know this at the time, but he had a very low level of emotional intelligence. He genuinely did not think he was doing anything wrong. And quite frankly, I don't know that I would say today that I think that he was actually doing anything wrong. I think in some ways, he was actually doing something valuable. But my ego was pretty high at the time, and it certainly went up against my beliefs about what is competition versus cooperation in the field. And so there's all sorts of things that can go into play on this, Dimple. But what I will say is this. I still made millions of dollars teaching more than 40,000 people how to podcast, even though there are people out there who were saying what Cliff is saying is dumb. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There's much better ways. You should be working with a real professional who really understands this. This is the way you should do it. Dimple, you just gotta have to have faith that you know what you want to create, And you also have to understand that, you know what, there may be people who are more qualified, more better, and they may have dissenting opinions. And sometimes they'll show up and they'll be very vocal. And it is just a part of success in this world is when you stand for something, there's going to be people out there who disagree with you. So hopefully that advice gives you some encouragement to move forward in spite of those voices in your head. Does that help?
Yeah, you know what, Cliff? That absolutely does help because it just kind of, puts it into perspective, and it's kind of it's kind of like helpful to just like, get it out and talk it out. So yeah, I really appreciate that because you've already been through it. Like
I
what I'm talking about, you've been through it a million times. Like, you know what I mean? Like for me, yes, I've launched stuff, but it's nothing where I've been hesitant to do it because of like how great I think it actually is. So I think it's because I think it's so great or unique. It's like I view it differently than, like, launching something differently from the past, I guess, you know?
yeah.
But is it's time to do that because I think everything happens in due time. And then when you feel ready, that's when you're going to do certain things. And it's like, and I feel ready. And part of it is like the little bit, maybe like say the 10% that maybe I don't feel ready or I feel uneasy. That's the part where I know that it's something good for me. I'm just going to go into it a little scared because I always tell other people go into things a little scared because when you do that, but you know it's the right thing you're supposed to be doing, that's when true success really comes. So I'm just going to have faith in the process, in myself, in my concept, and I'm just going to, build it out, and I'm going to do it because I've wanted to do it for a while, and I put it on the back burner. But now it's time to like bring it back and say, you know what, it's time to do this. So thank you.
You're welcome. I love it. And by the way, Dimple, have you ever studied the law of attraction before?
Oh yeah, yep.
So just keep in mind what you know about the law of attraction, and whatever you focus on, whichever of those thoughts that you hover over the most, whatever you focus on consistently is going to be what you feel. And of course, those feelings put a lot of emotion behind those thoughts, and that puts out your energetic frequency. And whatever you tend to focus on consistently tends to manifest itself. So I wouldn't focus too much on the haters, the naysayers, and the jealous people, and the people who might copy you. I would focus all of my time, effort, and energy on exactly the creation that I desire to bring into the world.
I
Thank
love I love that. Thank you so much. This is so helpful.
Thank you, Dimple. It's always such a joy and an honor. I can't begin to tell you. Every time I see that I'm live and see Dimple pull into my room on Clubhouse, there's no doubt in my mind I'm going to be able to engage with somebody today. You're just such a gem, and I thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's good to see you on here. I miss your, talks that you'd have with people on here. Even if I was in the audience listening, it was always like a great learning moment for I think everyone who was listening. Because you do it quite well. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving along here, we have Fred Ravenscraft on LinkedIn. He says, "Great job, Cliff. You represent the name well." Well, Fred, it's an honor to meet you, and I'm thrilled that you are watching live. And it's not very common for me to run into another Ravenscraft in this world, so it's great to see here. Thank you so much. All right, then we have Ron Saldano. He is watching via Facebook and says, "Hi, Cliff. Thank you for being here, Ron. I'm super thrilled to have you." We have Lake, who says, "I much prefer listening to you than Tony Robbins. I feel the same way Michael Hyatt does." That's awesome. Thank you, Lake. In fact, I see that Lake has joined me in the studio, so I'm going to come to Lake in just a moment, and then I'm also going to come to Josh in just a moment. Let's see. We have Grace, who says, "This is so freeing." And Grace is coming in via my webinar on demand platform through StreamYard. So thank you for registering for today's live stream and engaging with me. And Dale, I see your comment there. I am going to come to you in just a little bit. Let's see. We have Anna Sophie Reinhardt. She says, "The first negative reviews hurt a lot." Yes, they do, but they're great. It's great to have those, to get triggered into those emotional states and ask yourself this question: what would I have to believe for me to feel this way, to give this person's thoughts and words so much power over my ability to control my emotional state and my ability to take action in what I want to create in this world? So, Anna Sophie, I'm thrilled to see you here as well. Now, with that being said, I'm going to come back to the chat in just a moment. I want to bring up my screen here. Actually, let me throw that down here. I just want to let you know that if you are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, in the comment or chat section, type in your question and I will get to your question. Now, I will say, by the way, just go ahead and do that now. If you have a question you'd like me to answer, I'm going to be here until 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm doing this for 2 hours today. Type your question into the comments or chat section on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And of course, I'm always going to prioritize anybody who joins me right here in studio. And to join me in studio, you just type into your browser, mindsetanswerman.com/join, and you can join me via video or audio only. And Josh, I see that you are there, and it looks like you're going to be audio only, so I'm going to go ahead and add you to the stream. Josh, are you there? And you are currently muted. So we're going to give Josh just a moment and see if Josh responds. If not, I'll pull Josh from the stream. All right, so I'm pulling Josh from the stream. I did see Lake earlier, but he's dropped out of the studio. So we're going to move on to questions from the chat. So let me go ahead and go full screen. Dale's got a long question. It's going to cover my face. All right, let me take a drink before I read this one. Dale Smith. He says, Cliff, I'm forging ahead to build a program for caregivers of loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's. Ray Edwards has encouraged me to expand those served to caregivers of other neurodegenerative diseases. Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's disease, etc. What suggestions have you regarding messaging, podcasting, and otherwise a highly segmented audience? Let's see here. Second question. I was hacked and hackers hijacked my Facebook profile and Facebook locked me out. Any suggestions regarding getting back my profile and in Facebook's grace? So let me answer your second question first. I would encourage you, Dale, to do a Google search on how to get my Facebook account back after it's been hacked. I would also encourage you to go into YouTube and do the same search. There's got to be tons of people that have very clear instructions step by step on exactly the process that has worked for them when they were hacked and lost access. I have never had that happen to me, so I don't have any experience to draw from on helping you there. I don't have anybody that I know personally that it's happened to, so I don't have anybody that I know that I could point you to find out how they did it. But I do know that it's happened to millions of people, and I do mean millions. And when something like that has happened to millions of people, there's no doubt in my mind that if you go to YouTube and or Google and do a search for how to get my hacked Facebook account back, you will find a lot of valuable tools and materials and guides for how to do that. Now, to the other question, you're saying that I know that you had been doing a program and been creating content for caregivers of dementia and Alzheimer's, and you've been encouraged to expand it out to other neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's disease, etc. So your question is, what suggestions do I have regarding messaging, podcasting, and otherwise a highly segmented audience? Okay, so there are a couple of things that come to my mind as I think about this. If I had an overall brand, and by the way, I do have an overall brand. So I have an overall brand as a mindset coach. So I want you to think of, I coach people around mindset, and you coach people who are caregivers of loved ones that are going through some sort of degenerative disease. All right, so you're a caregiver, you're a coach and an educator and a communicator, an authority figure, if you will, a thought leader to caregivers. And I am a mindset coach, people who are struggling with mindset related issues, whether personally, professionally, or even spiritually. So you and I have both this broad brand. And in many ways, that's what Ray is suggesting. I actually don't limit myself to who I serve when it comes to helping them with their mindset. I don't only help business owners, although it is a primary focus of mine. So when it comes to my next level mastermind, which by the way, since I'm going to speak about this for just a moment, check this out. I went and we will just put this right there. It's right there. Nextlevelmastermind.info. If anybody wants to go to it, it's not .com, it's .info. But if you go to nextlevelmastermind.info, this is only for business owners. In fact, it's not even for brand new business owners who are just getting started and trying to make their first dollar. No, this is the Next Level Mastermind is a product that I have that is designed only for people who are full-time self-employed, who already have a validated product and or service, and who are already consistently able to generate new business with new clients coming on board. And ideally, I look for people who are making at least $2,000 or $3,000 a month, bare minimum. Ideally, I'm looking for somebody closer to the 10,000 plus range. And our goal is to get everybody to scale up. So that's a very targeted niche. And so I have a product that is designed just for that audience. Now, I also have one-on-one coaching. My one-on-one coaching is not, now I have people who would be a good fit for the Next Level Mastermind. But occasionally some of those people say, Cliff, because of the way that I do my business, I am not available on a weekly basis at the same time that you host your mastermind group. Is there any other way we could work together? So I said, sure, we could do one-on-one. This is what it would look like. And they choose that option instead. But there are some people who say, Cliff, oh, I'd love to be in your mastermind group. And I say, great, tell me about your business. How long have you been in business? Well, it's still getting off the ground. I'm like, great, tell me about your product. Well, I'm still trying to figure that out. Have you sold anything? Well, not yet. I'm like, great. So the Next Level Mastermind is definitely this thing that we can aspire to. Let's work one-on-one. Or here's the other thing. I have a course called Building an Online Business. It was an in-person workshop, and I've recorded all of those sessions. And occasionally what I'll say is, here's the deal. For $1,000, you can go through all of the recordings of my Building an Online Business workshop, and then I will include in that a 90-minute one-on-one session. So you go through all of the materials, write down all the questions you have, and for 90 minutes, you get unlimited access to me, and I'll answer all your questions. And then if you want more after that, we can talk about one-on-one coaching afterwards, but it's not required. This would be the most efficient and most cost-effective route for you to go to get started. There's no reason for me to take all of these 90-minute sessions over the next 6 months to teach you what you could learn in a weekend by watching this course. It'd be much cheaper for you, and it would be less one-on-one time between us for you to learn all of this basic material that I've already trained. And then I have other courses for other people. I have the Free the Dream course, which is not limited to teaching people about business, but it's all about how to control your emotional state, how to learn what your beliefs are, how to break up from limiting beliefs that are holding you back, and how to condition new beliefs. It's how to change the way you think and how you feel in the world, helping you get clarity. So I have a course that's kind of just for anyone, everyone, no matter what you're dealing with. If you're having some emotional state issues in your personal life, your relationships, or in your professional life, in your business, or even spiritually, that things aren't necessarily you're feeling too hot about. So I have a lot of different products and a lot of different services. Now, your question is about branding and messaging. So for me, I just brand myself. I'm Cliff Ravenscraft first and foremost. And I hope that people, when they think the name Cliff Ravenscraft, they think Mindset Answer Man. And so I tell everybody that my brand is Mindset Answer Man. And if you would listen to most of my content, not all of it, but almost all of my content that I produce, I will mention or play that jingle at the end of my podcast episodes. So I have a show called The Cliff Ravenscraft Show, and it is AKA the Mindset Answer Man podcast. And that is my general anybody can listen to audience. I do tend to steer towards speaking to people who are on the entrepreneurial path, because that's who I am, and I tell a lot of my entrepreneurial stories. But that show, I try to make sure that everything I create in the Cliff Ravenscraft Show is broad enough appeal so that thousands of people who are not business owners and will never be business owners can still get lots of value from it. Then there are some people that are business owners, but the business that they're in is coaching. So I actually have a podcast, which let me go to my branding here. You can go to notesoncoaching.com, and you will find a podcast. I think it has 30 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. But there are 30 podcast episodes that is of a podcast called Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching. Now, originally I was just going to do 10 episodes. And I was just going to let that be there. And people who were interested in my notes on how to be a prosperous and profitable coach and how to build a coaching business and get paid incredibly well to coach people, that's a very specific niche. I didn't want to do 10 episodes in the Cliff Ravenscraft Show on that. I wanted to have a podcast separate for that. And then, if I want to add an episode here and there, I'll add an episode here and there. Well, now I think there's 30 episodes. But anyway, if anybody wants to go and see Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching, you can go to notesoncoaching.com. Now, a lot of people who are coaches, but not all of them, might be interested in creating mastermind groups. So as a income stream. A lot of thought leaders, a lot of consultants, they could actually add a stream of income called a mastermind group, a paid mastermind group. And so I was going to write a book on this topic, but this was before AI came out and stuff like that. So I had the outline in a mind map of all the chapters that I would do, but I didn't want to write the book. So I'm like, what if I just record a bunch of podcast episodes? And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's 6 or 8 episodes of this podcast that you can find at upgradeyourpeergroup.com. And this is people who want to learn about mastermind groups. There are 2 different target audiences for that. People who want to create a paid mastermind group as an income stream, or people who are looking for a mastermind group to join, or people who want to learn how to create a mastermind group, maybe even if it's not paying. How do I know what's a good and healthy mastermind group? Well, I created an entire podcast called Upgrade Your Peer Group. Now, there are some people who want to learn how to podcast, and if you wanted to, you could go to podcastanswerman.com. So what I'm getting at is you could have all sorts of different outlets for you to put your message in. Don't think that when I say go out and create a podcast for this audience or that audience or this audience or that audience, that you have to keep creating tons and tons of content. You could just put 5 episodes of a piece of content devoted to that specific target audience, where every episode of that podcast is an introduction to who you are overall. And my philosophy has been, what I'm looking to do is I want people to just to know that I am a great place to go for entertaining, educational, encouraging, and inspirational content. That you're going to be uplifted and encouraged, and no matter where you are in life, I would love to support and encourage you in breaking free from any beliefs, any thought patterns, any emotional states, or any behaviors that are keeping you from living the life that you feel most called to live in this world. So most people are not looking for a general guy, a general answer man. They're usually looking for a specific help with a specific problem, pain point in a specific niche area. That's why I create all of those little satellite pieces of content that people find in their search for answers, and they come across that, and that piece of content, that Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching, that's the first time they ever heard the name Cliff Ravenscraft in their life. But after listening to 5 or 10 or however many podcast episodes, where at the end of every episode they say, hey, join my mailing list, and by the way, check out my Cliff Ravenscraft show where I talk about more topics beyond coaching, and a percentage of those people follow all the way through. Those are some of my thoughts, Dale, as I read your question. So, Josh, if you are wanting to come up on here and join me live, just unmute your microphone and I will be able to see that, I think. I'm going to give Josh one more try. Josh, are you there? And we're going to give Josh 3 seconds to try to unmute. 3, 2, 1, and we have no audio coming from Josh, so we'll pull Josh down. All right, let's pull up the chat here. We did Dale's question, and next is Anna Sophie says, and then it gets easier. Having haters means that you are visible, and how great is that? So Anna Sophie started with the first negative reviews they hurt a lot, but then you recognize this, like, wait a second, at least I'm being seen. People know that I'm out there, and people are hearing my voice. Even if they're disagreeing with it, at least I'm out there and I'm being seen. All right, and let's see here. I am looking for... Let's see. Dale's... Okay, so that's just some comment back and forth. Much better. Max says, "Yep, much better than Tony Robbins." I hear that a lot. I love Tony Robbins, but I don't know why. I just love Tony Robbins. But I do get a lot of people who tell me, Cliff, I can't stand Tony Robbins, but boy, do I love this. And the same people who say they love Tony or hate Tony Robbins or whatever. It's hilarious to me how many times those people say, oh my gosh, that most recent episode that you just did, or hey, I just took your Free the Dream course. It's like, oh, if you only knew where that source material is. And actually, many of them do know because I say it and stuff. But anyway, Lake says, I don't have anything. I just put me directly backstage when I came from the email. Sorry about that. No worries, Lake. Not at all. I wonder how that would work. I've been caring for my chronically ill wife for 22 years. Come tomorrow, it'll be 22-year anniversary. So, Lake, I would encourage you to reach out to Dale if that's what's going on in your world. Dale has a lot of experience in helping and being a caregiver. Just his story is amazing. If you've never reached out to Dale before, I can tell you he is such a godsend. So I encourage the two of you to connect. All right, George says here, he says, hi, Cliff. What books, audiobooks do you recommend to someone interested in learning more about the law of attraction? Great question. First and foremost, if anybody is interested in the law of attraction, I would encourage you to go to thecliffravenscraftshow.com, thecliffravenscraftshow.com, and listen to episode 707, titled Demystifying the Law of Attraction, a workshop with Cliff Ravenscraft. This is an hour and 20 minutes in length, and it is my full-blown, it is years and years and years of notes on the law of attraction. So that's the first place that I would send you, is thecliffravenscraftshow.com, and listen to episode 707. Now, if I go to Amazon, I will tell you my favorite book on the law of attraction is going to be Law of Attraction, Esther Hicks. There we go, Esther Hicks. And it would be this book right here. And there we go. It's The Law of Attraction, The Basics of the Teachings of Abraham. Now, I will tell you that this is a very metaphysical kind of thing. And so if you've not been introduced to that, it might be a little jarring to hear the story of where these teachings come from. But I'm not going to give you any more than that. Again, I would encourage you to listen to episode 707 of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show first. But then, if you're interested, this book right here, The Law of Attraction, The Basics of the Teachings of Abraham Hicks, that's where I would personally recommend that you begin. Now, if you want, you could also read this book. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And while it doesn't specifically state the law of attraction, it is actually an entire book where every single chapter of the book is talking about the law of attraction. So this is a book that you've probably heard before. You might even own a copy of it. But this book is the practical application from a personal and professional development side of things of the law of attraction. But those are the two books that I would recommend. George, by the way, thank you for tuning in via YouTube, and thank you for your question. By the way, I see that I have, let's see here, one more question here. This is from Enlightened Executive, Dennis here. He says, who have been your teachers, mentors, and models for shaping your approach? I love this question, and before I answer it, let me just go in here and throw this on the screen because I want to encourage more questions to come in. If you are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, or you have come through my mailing list and you're on the webinar side of things here on StreamYard, in the chat box, if you have a question, please type your question into the box and let it queue up. I'm getting ready to answer this question about who my teachers and mentors have been, and that's the final question I have right now. But I would very much love it if you were to submit additional questions. I've only been going for 1 hour and 7 minutes. I have another 53 minutes that I plan to be here today. And of course, this is an Ask Me Anything session. I'm also available to do free coaching if you want to come up and be coached on a specific issue or some obstacle or anything you want to talk about. You can join me here in studio via audio and or video. So mindsetanswerman.com/join. Again, that's mindsetanswerman.com/join if you want to join me live. But I'm going to leave that box up there so people can see to post your question. All right, going back to Dennis's question, I'm going to take a drink and I'm going to answer this. All right, who have been my teachers, mentors, and models for shaping my approach? And of course, I'm going to make some sort of leap to say your approach to life. So that's for me what I'm going to take from the question. So shaping my approach to life, that's personally, professionally, and spiritually. So on the biggest mentor in my life, as you could potentially imagine, would be Jesus. And that has been the most profound, the teachings of Jesus has had the most profound impact on my life in every area of my life, bar none. Now, I will come back to the spiritual side of things and tell you on a personal development side of things, things really started off for me in a very big way on the personal development side with a man named Dan Miller. Well, you could actually go all the way back to Dave Ramsey. There was a time when my wife and I were very, very, very much in debt. and we were introduced to Dave Ramsey, and we started his baby steps program, put $1,000 into an emergency fund, and started doing the debt snowball. And over the course of about 5 years, and by February 2007, we became 100% debt free, except for our mortgage, and we've remained that pretty much since, with very few exceptions here and there for some personal loans, but usually something that's easily paid off pretty quickly because of the business that we have. But I was very much influenced by the thoughts of Dave Ramsey. I don't buy into everything Dave Ramsey says, but still, he was a very big influence, if you will, in my life. The biggest influence that Dave Ramsey had was back when I was listening to his radio show. Every day, it seemed like he was giving out free copies of a book called 48 Days to the Work You Love by his friend, Dan Miller. And I bought that book, and that book changed my life. That was the first time I ever had anybody suggest that you should be able to make a great living doing what you love to do in this world. I had never had that message in my life. Sure, when I was a kid, I remember hearing you could be whatever you want when you grow up. But somewhere in my path, and I've witnessed it in countless other people's paths, is that's not the message that sticks with people. No, you've got to get responsible. You need to choose a recognized career. You need to grow up, go and get this education, one of these respectable jobs. If you don't have a respectable job, you've got all of that stuff. And it doesn't matter if you don't like it. You just got to do something to pay the bills. That's what it means to be a husband. That's what it means to be a father. Just get out there, work hard. By the way, money doesn't grow on trees, and you're not going to get paid for your hobbies. Sometimes I picked up this philosophy through my experience of working that the more you hate what you do, the more you should get paid to do it. And the reason why is because there are jobs that I was offered or that I was doing, and they said, "Hey, we'll pay you extra if you do this." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's not interesting to me. That's not a part of my job description." And I would definitely would. "Oh, but we'll pay you this much." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I could really use that kind of money." And then I would do it. So the more you hate to do something, the more difficult it is, the more challenging, the more disgusting it is, the more you should get paid. I adopted that belief system. Not that anybody taught me those things specifically. It's just I picked it up along my path through life. And then I also had this idea that the harder your job is, the more difficult, the more taxing, the more challenging, the more exhausting your job is, the more you should get paid. And again, I don't know if anybody taught me that other than the fact that you work hard for your money. I've heard that one countless times. But anyway, all I'm saying is that I had some really messed up ideas about earning money and the work that you do, such that I had no problem at all making tons of money as an insurance agent, working in my mom and dad's insurance agency that was started by my grandfather in 1937. It was an incredibly challenging job when it came to staying up and being on top of every single change in policy and what's covered, what's not covered, the mistakes that one could make if you don't ask the right questions and get the right things. And there was just so many things. And I sold auto, home, life, health, and business insurance. And we represented over all of those lines of business, I represented more than 35 companies, and I had to know everything about all of them. It was an incredibly difficult job. And I got paid incredibly well. And I had no problem receiving lots of money as a result of it. But when I discovered the opportunity to become a content creator, to show up and entertain, educate, and encourage and inspire people, and to do this stuff that I do online and let that be my career. When I first had those thoughts and the idea, I felt guilty and ashamed. I'm a husband. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. We have 3 young kids. Who do I think I am thinking about this? But I eventually got over those limiting beliefs to some degree. and at least enough eventually that I did make the decision to put my days notice in. And in January 2008, I became full-time self-employed, but I suffered greatly my first year because of those beliefs. Those beliefs were still ingrained in me. I had people begging me, Cliff, please send me an invoice. I'm like, I haven't earned this. What I was doing was fun. It was a hobby. I felt ashamed that I was charging people money to do something that I love when, it's like when they worked hard for their money, all this stuff. And then eventually I read this book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. And to say that changed my entire way of seeing the world and my work is an understatement. And I went and created an entire podcast series on this. And I made it a goal that I would meet Dan Miller one day. And then I talked about it in my podcast. And 45 minutes later, somebody who worked with Dan says, hey, I can introduce you to him today if you'd like. And he'd love to be a guest on your podcast. And then 1 week later, he was a guest on my podcast. And then he said at the end of that interview, hey, Cliff, can I hire you for consulting for my podcast? I'd love to get your feedback. And just a couple days later, we're on a call together. And then he says, hey, what equipment would you recommend? And I told him what I would recommend. He says, can you order all of that and get it in a box? He says, you're up in Northern Kentucky. Why don't you drive down here and you can stay in our guest room here in Franklin, Tennessee, and you could build a podcast studio. Just come on down. We'll spend the day together. I'll take you out to dinner, take you out to a show here in Nashville. And it's like, what? This is amazing. And so that began that process. And then that led me to another huge mentor in my life, which is Michael Hyatt. So Michael Hyatt was the CEO and president of Thomas Nelson Publishing for a while. Then he began to start a blog on the side. That became incredibly powerful. He wrote a New York Times best-selling book called Platform: Getting Noticed in a Noisy World. But anyway, he became one of my clients as a result of Dan Miller's recommendation to hire me to help him launch a podcast. And then he basically mentored me, guided me in a lot of areas that I was struggling with. He helped me get started on my public speaking, inviting me to speak on his stage. In fact, he was the second paid speaking gig I ever had, speaking at his Platform conference. And he put me in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So just those two alone are huge. And then Dan Miller and Michael Hyatt are the ones who recommended books like Think and Grow Rich, Psycho-Cybernetics. They're the ones who turned me on to, well, Michael's the one who turned me on to Tony Robbins and countless others. And so when it comes to teachers and mentors, there are literally, at this point, hundreds, if not maybe more than 1,000 people who have influenced me. So I can tell you some books that have been pretty big off the top of my head that The One Thing by, is it Gary Keller and Jay Papasan? But it's called The One Thing. Then there's Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism. There is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. There's Super Coach by Michael Neal. Those are just to name a few. And then back on the spiritual side, in 2020, for the first 47 years of my life, I was conditioned because of the religious upbringing community that I came up in. I was conditioned to only exclusively look for information and insight about my relationship with God and others, and from a spiritual sense, from the Bible and exclusively from the Bible, and that I should stay away from anything other than the Bible. However, in 2020, I broke free from that limiting belief, and I'm not suggesting that others should, but for me, I did, and I began reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and today I have been heavily influenced by Yogananda. I have been influenced by Michael Singer from the book Untethered Soul. I read the book A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I have been following the teachings of Abraham Hicks, channeled by Esther Hicks. I follow a lot of other spiritual people's experiences. I've read things from Sikh perspective, Buddhist perspective, all the different various branches of Buddhism, Taoism, every historical ancient tradition of mysticism. I mean, I'm really big into the mystic traditions of humanity throughout all humanity. So those are some of my teachers and mentors and models for shaping my approach in this world. Thank you so much, Dennis, for that question. All right. Lake says, love me some Train with Cliff. There's episodes on Think and Grow Rich. Thank you for bringing that up. In fact, Lake, that is a great opportunity for me to bring up a banner, not a banner, but one of these. And if anybody is interested, of course, you got tons of free content here with me showing up in these live streams, but I am looking for, there we go, trainwithcliff.com. And if I go to the archives and show this screen, there we go. And then I'll just go full screen on this one. So this is the Train with Cliff audio journal archive. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. It's a behind the scenes audio journal. So I talk a lot about what's going on in my personal, professional, and spiritual life, what I'm experiencing, the decisions I'm making, why I'm making those decisions. I'm going to see, can I, you know what? It's perfectly fine. All right. So we'll just keep going here. But here are the study. So there's an archive. If you were to join, this is a private podcast. It's $10 a month. I'm not suggesting that you go and sign up, but if you wanted to, here's what you could have access to. You get study insights of what I'm learning. So I share my reviews of books and courses from time to time. Here's an entire commentary on Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So if you think it's the real Cliff's Notes on Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So far, there are 29 episodes, and if you will have if you sign up for trainwithcliff.com, you do get access to this document, and you can click to each of these episodes. By the way, I've only done commentary for the first 9 chapters, and there are 29 episodes on the first 9 chapters. Eventually, I'll get back into that. I started a commentary on the Secrets trilogy by Russell Brunson. These are his marketing secrets books. I've only done 3 episodes of that so far. I may get back into it again when I get back into the marketing mindset once again. I do a lot of technology purchases, and I review those purchases. And if you want to hear my thoughts and reviews on different gear, that's inside of here as well. I've got marketing insights. I've been doing business since January 2008, have generated millions of dollars in sales of the various different things. So if you want to hear some of my marketing experiences, there's special episodes where I talk about that. I give business insights, and I even talk very openly about where I'm at in the income of my business. You'd be a little bit shocked at how authentic I am about that. And then I talk about mindset and problem-solving insights, the issues that I face and what's going on, the challenges that come up and how I deal with them. Lots of content specifically on that. There was a time when I shared my keto journey and stuff like that. And of course, there's plenty more. But that's, trainwithcliff.com. Thank you so much, Lake, for bringing that up. All right, so let me get rid of that. Go back over here and let's see. Let's see. I am just seeing if I can find out where I was in this. And there's some I love that there's conversation happening in the chat. And by the way, if you haven't done so already, please do post your comments in the chat. Post your question in the comment section on Facebook, LinkedIn, or on YouTube. All right, let's see here. Okay, I think I'm almost right. Okay, talk about the principle of synchronicity in guiding your life path. All right, so this, I'll just quickly say that synchronicity, for those who don't know what synchronicity is, it's kind of like the way that I would describe it, and I'll describe it in a way that I experienced it before I knew what it was. I didn't even know the term synchronicity. But here's how it happened for me. So in 2021, I think it was, right after they opened movie theaters for the very first time, but almost nobody was going to movie theaters, I went and saw a movie called Tesla. and it was just a biopic. It was kind of like an indie film, and it was amazing. I loved it. I've always been a Nikola Tesla fan. And so I went and I watched that movie, and as I came home, immediately I'm like, I wonder if Nikola Tesla ever wrote an autobiography, or I wonder if there's a biography on Nikola Tesla. So that thought came to my head, to my mind. Now, I will tell you that I believe that thought was an internal voice. It was an intuition. It was an internal prompting that led me to say, hey, go in search of this. And I was instantly able to find My Inventions, an autobiography of Nikola Tesla. I then downloaded that book on my Kindle, read the entire thing, and to say that the words on the page jumped out at me and spoke to me beyond time and space is an understatement. So I was intuitively being taught things from within that are far beyond the words that are written on the page. And then as I'm reading this book, I will pause, and then I go and do something, and then let's just say I'm having lunch. And then I have a thought to search for something on YouTube. And I go and I find that thing, and what I'm searching for is not necessarily that interesting to me. But then there's a recommended video right below it. And the thumbnail captures my attention. And I'm like, I click on it. And then that video seems to pick up on the train of thought or study or learning that was happening right where I left off in that book. Now, I want to explain to you, I wasn't actually learning or experiencing insight that was directly tied to the words on the page. It's the words on the page just unlocked something for me. And all of a sudden, I'm just having this flurry of insight. And I'm like blown away, which is why I chose to stop reading the book where I was. And I'm like, that's amazing. Now I'm at lunch, seemingly interested in a completely off-topic thing, but then that didn't interest me, but I clicked on this thing, and now, boom, that insight that is almost not directly related to what was written in the book, but the thoughts that were gravitating in my head attracted to me this synchronicity of this particular video that was recommended. And it's almost as though internally I was prompted to open up YouTube to search for a topic, any topic, doesn't matter, just search for a topic, so that this video, the algorithm and the universe and how God can bring everything all together here's the next thing. And for like ever since, but certainly I recognize this happening like all day, every day. I would go from one book, from one documentary, from one conversation with a friend, from a podcast episode, all of these things seemingly unrelated, and having a steady stream of logical insight building on one and it's like there's no way all of these different people could have thought that. I mean, it's like there's no other way I could have imagined learning this other than the path that I got here. But if you were to ask me, how did I actually learn all of the things I just learned in the last 6 days, it is absolutely mind-blowing how it exactly happened in the order and in the timing that it happened, other than it was perfect. And that's how I would describe the principle of synchronicity. Love it. Thank you for the question. All right. Max says, how do we not have fear of stuffing up when we put ourselves out there? First and foremost, I would not encourage you to get rid of the fear. I would just recognize that you have the fear and allow it to be a check engine light. Now, fear is a lower level of consciousness. It's not something that's bad, by the way, but fear is a lower level of consciousness. And a lower level of consciousness is going to keep you out of alignment with who you truly are and what you truly feel called to create in this world. And so that's probably why you're asking the question of, how can I get over this fear of putting myself out there, because there's a presumption that I'm making that you have a desire to put yourself out there, but you have this fear. And both of these things are good. They're perfect, in fact, for where you are right now. So my recommendation is for you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, why do I want to put myself out there? In what way do I want to put myself out there? Get some clarity about that. Okay? Then acknowledge the fact that you have the fear. Don't push the fear away. Don't suppress the fear. Allow yourself to feel the fear. In fact, I would encourage you to journal. This is what I am feeling inside of my body. I am noticing that I am experiencing the emotional state of fear. And inside my mind, I'm hearing these voices, or I'm experiencing these thoughts. And write those thoughts down. And then once you have the explanation of the fear and you're acknowledging that the fear is there, first of all, thank the fear, because the fear is just trying to keep you from endangering yourself. Quite frankly, there's a lot of trained thought about putting yourself out there. Lots of people have been put to death, by the way, in our ancestors' past for putting themselves out there. So there might be some reason why that fear comes up. But acknowledge that the fear is there, thank it for it, and let it be a lesson or an opportunity for you to come up with a realization, a conscious awareness of the thoughts and beliefs that are here, or the thoughts that are actually causing you to experience this fear. And once you have those thoughts, these are the things that I'm afraid of. These are the things that I fear might happen, or whatever the case may be. Then ask yourself, what would I have to believe for me to feel this way, or for me to think this way? Where did this come from? Is that true? I would encourage you to process this. Start out on your own. If you need help, work with others who have gone beyond where you are currently, who have broken through their fears, and have conversations with people who can support or encourage you. And of course, Max, anytime you want, whenever I'm doing one of these live streams, you could always go to mindsetanswerman.com/join, and we could talk it out right here, live, in front of everyone. How about that for putting yourself out there? But seriously, though, depending on what it is that you want, that you're trying to do, and what you want to put yourself out there, it all has to do with what do you want and why do you want it. And you're never going to move past the fear of putting yourself out there unless what's on the other side and actually putting yourself out there is so valuable to you. I'll give you a perfect example of this. I tell this story of a guy who goes on a weekend retreat, and he has a friend in the military. There's this hidden base that is available only to people who are in the know. And it's out in the middle of wilderness. It's miles and miles away from everything, civilization. And it's out in the wilderness. And this is a little tiny base. And I mean, when I say tiny, it's like a cabin and a couple other external buildings, and that's it. And it's surrounded by a big fence. The fence is like 25 feet high. It's got rounded razor blade things all around the top of it. And the gate into this space is the highest tech gate, secured. Not only do you need a passcode, but you need a special key and lock, and there's a special way to do all of this stuff to even get in. So anyway, he has a friend who's in the military, and he says, you know what? Go and get away for the weekend. That cabin is yours. So he goes, and the only thing he has is his backpack, which has a journal in it and a wallet. And that wallet has $300 cash. So that's the only thing he brought with him, and some clothes. So he has clothes, a wallet with $300 cash, and he also has his journal. So he goes and he finds the location, pulls out the key. He has a hard time trying to open up this gate, but he finally figures it out. He gets in, settles inside of the cabin. 4 o'clock in the morning, he wakes up and he's ready to go for a run in the woods. He's a cross-country runner, wants to see the sunrise. It's absolutely amazing. So what he does is he is out, he sees the sunrise, he's like, okay, now he's walking back towards the cabin, and just over the horizon of where he's walking, he sees smoke. Now he's out in the middle, miles and miles away from civilization. He sees smoke. So he starts running towards the cabin area, this little area, and he sees that smoke is billowing out the window of the cabin. So he runs up to the gate. He reaches into his pocket only to realize that he left the key inside the cabin. So my question for you is, what's the likelihood that he is going to get through that impenetrable gate, or get through this fence of this military installment, even though it's a little flake, but it's military grade everything, so that he can save his written journal, a couple of changes of clothes, and $300 inside of his wallet? If you think the fact that he's tried to, jiggle the gate and all this other stuff and all these other things, let me ask you this. Would you, if that were you, get over the fear of climbing the 25-foot fence and climbing over the razor blades and potentially slicing your arms open and bleeding to death to save that change of clothes, that written journal, and your wallet with $300 cash? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to have a lot of fear about that prospect. And in many ways, I'm going to be very thankful that I have that fear. I think I'm just going to let that cabin burn to the ground, and I'm going to lose the $300 cash. I'm going to lose my backpack, and I'm going to lose my change of clothes. I'm okay with the fear stuffing me up. All right? Now, I want you to imagine a different scenario. Same guy decides that his family needs a weekend getaway. So he, his wife, and his 2 toddler children go away for this weekend. They hike for hours to get to this place. He struggles to get it open with the key and the combination and all the things he has to do, but they finally get it. They settle into the cabin that night. They have a fire in the fireplace, candles burning. He's writing in his journal at night. And by the way, they all pretty, I mean, the wife and the kids, all they brought was changes of clothes and stuff like that, and they're just going to sit back. His wife probably brought a book or 2 to read, and he's got his journal in his wallet and his change of clothes. So 4 o'clock in the morning, he wakes up. He's very quiet, tiptoes out, closes the gate behind him, goes for his run, sees the sunrise. On his way back, it's now, the sun is up, and he sees smoke on the horizon. Now, he knows there's only one place that smoke can be coming from, so he runs very fast. He reaches into his pocket to get the key, only to realize that he left the key inside that cabin. The cabin that is billowing smoke. Smoke that clearly would have asphyxiated his wife and 2 toddler children. Now, he's understood already, there ain't no way I'm getting through this gate. I'm not strong enough to pull the fence apart. And he looks up 25 feet in the air, and he sees all those razor blades coiled around. Now, the only thought that comes to his mind is taking off his clothes. And at this point, he's only got shorts and a t-shirt. But taking off his clothes, climbing that fence, putting those clothes over those razor blades, knowing that he's likely still probably going to slice open some of his skin. He could potentially even bleed to death as a result. Do you think he has the same level of fear? Yes. My question is, do you think he's going to do it? I bet you would. That's how you overcome fear, by having something worth it on the other side to going through and facing the fear. All right. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's see here. The question is, will this be replayed? You are on LinkedIn, and so the answer is yes. As soon as I'm finished here, you could pull up the same page or go to my profile, and you should see the replay available. Let's see here. It's all integrated and one. Yes, it is, Dennis. Thank you for the question and the prompt. I really appreciate it. Max says, how do we not have fear? Okay, so we already answered that question. And then let's see. Okay, we got all of that. And then I still have 20 minutes left. That's awesome. But I do need more questions. I do see Ash is on Clubhouse. We'll see. Let's pull Ash up. Ash, I'm gonna unmute you. Or I'm gonna invite you up to on stage here, and see if you want to come up, and we'll see what's on your mind. So we're bringing in a Clubhouse user, and we'll see if he comes up. So let me hit invite to speak. I'm gonna take a drink of water, by the way. Ash has been there for quite some time with his hand raised on Clubhouse. He may be having an issue. Sometimes Clubhouse experiences an issue. I'm going to try one more time to invite you. Ash, if you're trying to get on stage and it's not working for you, I'd encourage you to leave the Clubhouse room and then come back into Clubhouse and try again raising your hand. If I don't see that, I'm just going to go ahead and hit mute, and I will move on. By the way, I do think I just have one more comment, actually. The universe provides an auto guidance system if we stay awake to the moment. That is absolutely true. I have seen that in my life and could not agree more. All right, I'm going to take another drink. I would very much love to be of support and encouragement. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, if I can support or encourage you, please go ahead and type in your question on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, or if you're in the webinar platform, let's see here. Go ahead and type into the comment box. If you'd like to join me here in the studio, you can go to mindsetanswerman.com/join. Max says, I will have to get on the studio with you another time soon. Sounds great, Max. I will be here many times in the future, so I would love to have you join me sometime. Lake says, I was recently diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. Do you happen to know / have any resources to help me with this? Either coaches who specialize in it and or books or podcasts. Yes. I can tell you somebody who specializes in this. So let me see if I can find his how would I find him? So let me go and just give me a second. It's going to take a moment to look this up, and I don't want to. So we're going to do Daniel Hudson. And do I happen to have his website? So see LinkedIn thread. You know what? I'll give you his LinkedIn. There we go. That will be perfect. And we will go to Daniel Hudson. And what I will do is I will share my screen now that I have it, and we will make it bigger. So there is Daniel Hudson, and I'm also going to put a banner on here. So hit that, and boom. There you go. So linkedin.com/in/S Daniel Hudson. S Daniel Hudson. And that is where you will find him. And it says here he's a principal product manager, blah, blah, blah. It says all that, but he's also a results coach, and he very much specializes in ADHD. So I do know that. I've worked with him as a coach. I've coached him. So, and the last time we talked, he says, I'm really going to go all in on this side of things. So I'm just wondering if I can think of his TikTok, Daniel Hudson. I wonder if it's possible to pull up somebody that easily. That's definitely not Daniel Hudson. Let's see here. So D Huts, I think, might be him. Actually, this might be his Instagram. There. Okay, so there's D Huts, and here's his TikTok. So let me click here, and actually, before I do that, I am going to remove the stream, because I want to actually go in and change something. So I'm going to hit stop screen. Boom. And then I'm going to hit present, and I'm going to do share screen, window. Okay, no, I don't want window. Okay, so Daniel. Huh. Oh, share audio. Okay, so I see share audio. So I can only share audio if I do tab. That's what I thought. No worries. So there's that, and we want not. Okay, I'm gonna go to TikTok first. So Twitter Huts. There we go. And that is the one. And then here is Daniel Hudson. Okay, so now I could share this with audio. Let's go full screen on this. And here is the last thing I heard him say. So,
hey, if you have ADHD and you really want to start journaling, but like it's either you write it down in 16 different journals or your brain moves way too fast for the pen and so you can't just use a written form, it just doesn't work for you, right? Then I want you to try this. I saw this girl do this on TikTok. I tried it out for myself. It freaking works. It's awesome. It's an amazing tip. And all you got to do is when you're walking or when you're just like out on a walk, turn on your voice recorder and then just talk to your voice recorder. You'll still feel like somebody's listening, but like honestly, just the act of just like cathartically thinking, like speaking what you're thinking, just helps you organize thoughts and helps you like really feel better too. Like try it out, check it out, and follow me for more ADHD tips. Hey, if you have ADHD.
there you go. So Daniel Hudson, that's who I would recommend. Thank you for the question, and thrilled to provide that resource. All right, got one more comment here from Dennis. He says, talk about how life happens for you rather than to you. All right. So this would be called pronoia, is what I call it, and other people's call. I didn't come up with the term, but it is pronoia, and I will do a search here for pronoia, and I will share my screen here. So now I want to actually go here and hit present. Share screen, and I'm going to do just the window again this time because there we go. Pronoia. You can see it on the screen here. In fact, I'll just go full screen so you can see it even. Actually, that didn't do a whole lot, did it? Oh, there we go. Hey, look, I can be on the screen with the thing. Okay, pronoia. So pronoia is the state of mind that is the opposite of paranoia. Whereas a person suffering from paranoia feels that persons or entities are conspiring against them, a person experiencing pronoia feels that the world around them conspires to do them good. So just imagine if you've ever had a paranoid thought. Oh my gosh, everything's going to fall apart. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh my gosh, I can't catch a break. What if you were to have the opposite? Oh my gosh, this is going to work out amazing. You know, I know that God or the universe is absolutely got my back. In fact, I know that I've been inspired to pursue this, and I know that everything's going to work out. Maybe not the way that I expect or anticipate, but however it works out, and I know it's going to work out the best way possible so that I am the best version of who I feel called to be in this world. That is pronoia. An affirmation that I like related to pronoia: every circumstance, situation, and relationship in life was allowed into my life for my benefit. I have an opportunity to learn and grow from everything I experience. And if you need a scripture, for those of you who require scriptures for these, thought philosophies and stuff like that, here's one for you. This is, I believe, Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And then it says here, footnote, in all things, God works together for those who love him to bring about what is good. So if you were to look in, I think it was the NIV, there's another translation. It says, for those who love him, those who love him to bring about what is good. So my question is, are you going about life to bring about what is good? If so, God's going to work it all together. Let's see here. Here's some other things. How to experience peace, love, and joy all the time. It's been a long time since I did this. January 8th of 2022 is when I made this. Anyway, is this even possible? I met with much resistance myself and had read 2 questions that were found on page 10 of the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Question number 1, am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? And number 2, am I willing to feel good and have my whole life go well all of the time? And yeah, so there's a whole post on this in here. But yes, thank you for the prompt on that. Let me remove that, and I am back. So talk about how life is happening for you rather than to you. Any other questions or comments, feel free to type them in. I'm here for another 10 minutes. I will start going through a little housekeeping, share with you guys a little bit more about why I'm here, what I'm doing. Actually, that's kind of wrap up with that. So what I'm doing is living out the prompting of that internal nudge that says, go do this. It was last Saturday. I was upstairs with Stephanie, and I was like itching to do something. Like, I don't know if you ever had that feeling. It's like just sitting still right now is not in the cards for me. There's no appeal for sitting still. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about sitting still, meditation, finding peace in the moment. But I just had way too much energy, and that energy was coming from within, and I felt like I needed to do something. And there's only one thing on my mind to do, and that is I want to go live like I used to do on Clubhouse. And I want to just make myself available for Ask Me Anything. I just want to get on. I just want to be creating encouraging, entertaining content, being of support and encouragement to others. That's what I want to do. Only one little problem. Clubhouse does not drive traffic to those rooms at all anymore. Now, when I say at all, since I started Clubhouse 10 minutes before I started this live stream today on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and on the on-demand webinar. So far, 4 people have come in and out of Clubhouse. So that's it. 4 people. Now, don't get me wrong. If those 4 people were on Clubhouse and I was engaging with them directly, would it be a valuable use of my time? Yes, but it's not at the level of what I desire. I used to open up a room on Clubhouse, and I could just launch the room. It'd be titled Ask Me Anything. And I'd have somewhere between 7 to as many as 30, 40, or 50 people in the room the entire time. And I'd have a consistent ongoing flow of people raising their hands who want to engage with me. And I'm not talking about typing questions in a chat. I'm talking people who are willing to come up and ask me a question and engage in conversation. And I'm like, man, I miss those days. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I have that StreamYard account. I paid for a premium version for it. Why haven't I used that in a while? So I came down, not with any advance notice. I just went in and said, hey, let's make this go live on all these platforms. No notice whatsoever. And I just opened up and Ask Me Anything. And people started coming in. I had 1 or 2 people come in studio and join me live, which was great. I would have liked more, but that's okay. It was great. But I did have a very steady flow of comments and specifically questions in the comments. And I'm like, this is amazing. 2 different people asked the same question. One asked like during the first 15 minutes of the live stream, and the second person asked right around the last 15 minutes of the live stream. And the second person did not hear my answer to the first one. But the questions were very similar, and I'll just paraphrase it for you. But Cliff, what future plans do you have for your work that you do in the world? In essence, that's the question. And I'm like, wow, I love that. And the way that I felt prompted to answer it is, if I didn't have to be concerned about how to monetize it, and if all of the financial situations are all taken care of, let's just say if I had all the money that I needed and I didn't need to earn money, what would I do? I like to start with that question. And the answer came easily. Here's what I'd do. I'd wake up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would devote the first 3 to 5 hours of my morning to reading, studying, meditation, growing, personal self-care. And then I would show up and do a live stream and just allow anybody and everybody to come and join me. Now, ultimately, that would be a backlog of people who are looking to engage with me face to face here, here on the thing, live audio and video. Just people just volunteering ahead of time. In fact, I would even I see myself even getting to the place where it's like, okay, I'm going to give I've got a backlist of about 40 people who have requested access to have one-on-one with me for free during these sessions. And I could see myself saying, you know what, I know what this person wants. I'm going to we're going to spend, 35 minutes, or we're going to spend 40 minutes with this person. And we're going to spend, 20 minutes with this person. This person's question, I'm going to spend this amount of time. And then I'll just schedule them up, and I will just serve those people. And then other people will be pushed to the next live session. But I could see myself doing, now, again, if I didn't have to do other work, if I didn't have to do other products and services, I didn't have to do marketing of other things, and this is what I did, I would host a 4-hour session, a 4-hour live session. Now, this session right here, I started 1 hour and 56 minutes ago, and I intend to do this for 2 hours. But I would do this for 4 hours. I would do it as not to monologue, but actually to do real coaching live with people. That's my preference, but that's my desire. I'm okay with engaging with questions and prompts like I've had here today. There's nothing wrong with that. And I know that it's been entertaining, educational, encouraging, and inspirational. That's great. But my deepest level, my deepest vision is people are eager to jump on, even to be able to do this publicly. Just the opportunity to have that engagement with Cliff Live would be worthy of me putting myself out there on all of Cliff's social platforms. Now, I know for a fact I could book myself solid with 90-minute one-on-one personal questions, but that it's not the vision and dream of what I have. Trust me, I have those, and I do that for my business. And I would still do those, by the way. I would still do that. So my idea would be that I would do like a 4-hour stream. Let's just say I start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I go, 10, 11, 12, 1, so I'd go until 1 o'clock. So let's just say I went from 9 to 1 or 8 to 12 in the morning, Eastern time. Then after the live stream, I'd go to lunch. I'd hang out with my wife. I'd go for a walk. I'd go to the gym. I'd take a nap. I'd do more meditation. And then after that, if I still needed, by the way, if I didn't need to earn income, I would still do one-on-one. I'd still do private sessions with people who are not willing to come up in front of a live audience like this. And I would serve them one-on-one. I would probably do 1 or 2 90-minute sessions, each of those days. So that's what I would do. And I'm like, wow, that dream just, and I would offer, there would be times when I wouldn't do this. By the way, I said I would do this Monday through Friday. Like that would be my thing. Maybe even Saturday and Sunday, because, this is what I love. But there'd be times I would host in-person retreats and things of that nature if it came to it. And so that's what I began thinking of. That's what I began dreaming of. And after I finished that, it's like, why don't I just start? I mean, I know that that's the big picture. That's what I would love to see happen, and all this other stuff. And I believe that this prompting is from within. And I believe anything that God or the universe would actually prompt within, it can provide all of the resources and stuff like that. Why don't I follow my initial nudging and start doing some live streams? So if you look in my feed, you'll see I've been live streaming pretty much every day. I didn't do yesterday because I had other coaching calls and mastermind calls that I facilitated. But I did a live stream Saturday. I think did I do one Sunday? I can't remember, but I did one Monday. I did one Tuesday. Here I am Thursday, and it's not scheduled yet, but a little heads up, I will be live tomorrow here as well. And I have a special spiritual awakening community that I'm doing something private. It's not going to be streamed on the internet. It's only going to be for the private community. And it'll be recorded and potentially go out as an Encouraging Others Through Christ podcast, but it's not going to be streamed out for everyone on the socials. That's going to be Saturday. And I'm thinking maybe I take Sunday off. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm just playing it by ear right now. I do know that I started this at 10 o'clock today, and quite frankly, I wish I announced it yesterday afternoon to my mailing list. And this morning, I was wishing I would have started it earlier. Number one, to give myself a buffer between this stream and my after. I have 2 90-minute coaching calls today. One's at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. One's at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But I wish I would have started it earlier. And so I'm thinking about starting tomorrow's. I thought about 9 o'clock. But then I'm like, what if I started at 8 o'clock? You know, and I'm toying around. I'm playing around with everything. I have an idea of just, because I've built my business so far where Wednesday mornings I have my mastermind calls. But my coaching calls that for my income that I do, now my mastermind group for business owners is income generating. But my coaching calls for potential clients and current clients who pay me for my one-on-one coaching, those all happen on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 1 p.m. or 3:30 p.m. I don't do any coaching calls on Friday afternoon because I like to maybe cut out early on the weekend and go do stuff. But I thought, well, gosh, I have the mornings available anyway. Why don't I just start doing these live streams? And so I've been toying around and playing with it. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I've already kind of tentatively booked out, like doing this ongoing just to see how it goes. But yeah, that's what's going on here. That's why I'm here. I love doing this. And as long as people keep showing up, I will keep being here. I'm not necessarily worried about if people get burned out on seeing Cliff all the time or anything like that. If that happens, it happens. But I have a feeling like there's a reason why I'm doing all of this, and it's all leading to the right thing. So I'm going to promote a couple of things here at the end. First and foremost, if you're not on my mailing list, go to mindsetanswerman.com/free. You will get the most important message to introduce you into the world of emotional state management, helping you break free from fear, worry, anxiety, doubt, and all sorts of limiting beliefs, emotions, and behaviors that are keeping you from moving forward with what you want to create in this world. 1 hour talk for free. It's called All Beliefs Have Consequences. You can get it for free at mindsetanswerman.com/free. Also, want to let you know that will put you on my mailing list, and you'll get notifications every time I schedule one of these Ask Me Anythings. Next, the Next Level Mastermind, nextlevelmastermind.info. This is for full-time self-employed business owners. If you are a full-time self-employed business owners, you already have a validated product and service. You've already been able to get clients. You've proven that you have a valid business model, and you're building momentum or you've got momentum. The Next Level Mastermind is potentially for you. Check it out, nextlevelmastermind.info. Next, email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. If you want to talk to me about one-on-one coaching privately, you don't want to do all this stuff in public here, you want to talk to me privately, just email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Actually, just email me here, even if you just want to say, hey, Cliff, I really appreciate the fact that you show up. And if you got any insight or encouragement today, I would love to hear this. Let me just tell you, the likelihood of me being continued to be inspired and motivated will be generated by people who tell me that this is making a difference. So email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. All right. I talked earlier, I have a podcast called upgradeyourpeergroup.com. If you don't know what a mastermind group is, if you don't know the mastermind principle and how it can radically transform your life, go to upgradeyourpeergroup.com. It's a short form podcast. Actually, there are 6 or 8 episodes. They're probably all about an hour in length, but there is only 6 or 8 episodes that will likely ever be there at upgradeyourpeergroup.com. If you're a coach and you want to learn how to have a profitable coaching career, check out notesoncoaching.com. That's Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching, another podcast that I produce. If you want to learn how to be a podcaster, I wouldn't recommend that you go to podcastanswerman.com. But if you want to find out some thoughts that I have about podcasting, there's a few episodes that are in the all-new version of the show, and I may eventually get around to putting some other things out there. I just realized that I do not have the Cliff Ravenscraft Show in this list. That's okay. I'll come back and fix it. I have a podcast called encouragingothersthroughchrist.com. It is not your typical Christian podcast. It is a more mystical version of Christianity, if you will. But it is over at encouragingothersthroughchrist.com. If you want to be a part of the spiritual awakening conversations that we do, it's very focused on spiritual awakening journey and also deconstructing from your beliefs that have been holding you back and limiting you. You can learn more over at awakening.cliffravenscraft.com. I talked earlier about trainwithcliff.com. That's a paid-for, behind-the-scenes podcast. I share way more than you'd ever want to know about all of the decisions that I'm making in my life. It's like reading my journal. Freethedreamcourse.com. Don't worry about that. Just go to mindsetanswerman.com/free. You'll hear about the course. You don't have to sign up for it. Just make sure that you do get that first free session, though. And then cliffravenscraft.com/podcast. There's more podcasts that I have that I haven't talked about, so you can learn there. And that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you. Awesome. It has been such a joy to have each and every one of you here. Thank you so much. I'm going to go over to Brand. If you are not following me or subscribed on YouTube, no matter, you guys are watching this all sorts of different places. I can see some of you are watching on the Facebook page. Some of you are watching on my Facebook profile. Some of you are watching on Twitter. If you want to be able to ever engage with me, you'll need to follow me on another platform to chat. Some of you are watching on LinkedIn. And then, of course, special shout out to those of you who are watching on my webinar platform. So that means you came in through my mailing list. I really appreciate that you did that. And of course, I want to end on encouraging you all to subscribe to my YouTube channel over at youtube.com/CliffRavenscraft. Until next time, I encourage you all to take everything you do to the next level. Bye-bye. That was supposed to be smooth. I clicked the button. I didn't trust the universe to have my back. It delayed it for a second. That was supposed to be so smooth. All right, bye.